Welcome. This is the Enlightenment Show, and I'm your host, Laurie Schoenfeld. This is where Chicken Soup for the Soul meets the artist way with Nancy Drew. Our guest today is Denny S, Bryce and Eliza Knight, authors of Can't We Be Friends? We're going to be chatting today all about their new release and how friendships have come in the most unexpected of ways. Hello, ladies. Welcome.
Hi, how are you doing?
So glad to have you both here on this lovely Monday morning or afternoon, wherever you're at.
Right? Yeah.
It's definitely Monday.
It's a Monday. Okay, we got that much right.
I think we established that, Denny. Yeah. Well, happy to have you both here together talking about this amazing book of Can't We Be Friends? I'm going to start off with you, Denny, on this question. Can you share with our listeners and viewers what Can't We Be Friends is all about?
Oh, it is all about, well, first and foremost, it is about friendship. And it is about the friendship between two icons, two queens in their genres of jazz and motion pictures. So we have the great Ella Fitzgerald and the equally great Marilyn Monroe, who happened to have been friends back in the day in the I think they met in the 1950s. I mean, I know they met in the 1950s. We did the research. So we know it all. And Eliza Knight and I started thinking about this book, or discovered the story idea back in 2019. And when we both lived in the same city, and we would spend alternating months going to each other's respective homes, hanging out and doing write-ins where we just, groups of people writing away. And then toward the end of the write-in, drinking wine and hanging out in front of Google. And that's where we discovered a photo of Ella and Marilyn in a casual girlfriend setting. And we said, what is this about? And that got us started.
I love that, Eliza, because that takes it right into the next question of where this idea for your story came to be. If you found that picture, and then where did it take off from there for you both?
So when we saw the picture, it was so candid and lovely. Like, they're just sitting there laughing, actually having like a real conversation. And it really sparked our interest to think, like, how did these two meet? And obviously, like, they look like they're friends. What are they doing hanging out? So as we sipped our wine, and what history nerds love to do is just dive down that like historical rabbit hole, we started doing all this research, and we found out that they had met up at a club. The Tiffany Club is where they were originally photographed, hanging out, having fun. And then afterwards, Ella was having some trouble getting into one of the nightclubs on the Sunset Strip. And Marilyn was like, well, I know the manager. I'll give him a call. We'll see if we can get you in there. So we just kept digging. And one of the other really cool things that we found was an ad for the Friends album. It had just been signed by RCA Records, that they had gotten the contract. And we were like, well, this is even more interesting. Like, obviously they were friends, hanging out, going to jazz clubs, things like that. But now they're so close, they're making an album that they named Friends. And then, of course, we found out that album didn't exist. So something happened along the ways that they didn't end up making this really cool album, although you will find that they both recorded similar songs. I think there's 3 or 4 that they both covered. So we think those probably would have been on the album, but our biggest question was, what happened? Well, what happened with their friendship? What happened with this record? And we just kind of kept going from there.
Mm-hmm. There's so many things I loved about this book, but what I really enjoyed is I loved getting a different perspective of both Ella and Marilyn that I didn't even know. Like, there was more history and depth to both of them, but then how they just could be with one another. And like, it presented almost different layers of themselves together as a team. What's something that you learned that made you love and connect to them even more, Denny?
With Ella, who was a very private person, the thing that got me was her resilience to being in, she'd been in the, when they met, she'd been in the business for 20 years already. And the thing that I really respected about her was her ability to stay in touch with the times as an artist, as a singer. So, you know, going from when she started in the 1930s all the way to the end of her career, think about the shifts in the music scene from jazz, from swing, bebop, you know, just all of this stuff. So that sort of readiness to adapt within the confines of a society that put limitations on women, on Black women, on entertainers. And that mindset, I felt, really helped connect her to Marilyn Monroe, who was much more of a innovator in her Hollywood motion picture world than we both felt she was given credit for.
Mm-hmm. I love that you mentioned that too, because I got that feel of like, I feel like the media puts a very specific picture just on in general on people, and we think we know them, but we really don't at all.
Right.
The depth of what they go through behind the scenes, it's so much more resilient, more passionate and creative and connective. Eliza, what were some of your favorite things that you learned about both Ella and Monroe or Marilyn?
One of my favorite things that I learned about Marilyn is that she was really interested in actually learning. Like you said, there's all these stigmas that come with who she was and what, you know, what people put in biographies and documentaries and things like that. And she was really so much deeper than just like a blonde bombshell. She loved to learn. She took a lot of classes, dance classes, acting classes, actual classes at UCLA. And then when she wanted to get better at acting, she went to New York to the actor's studio there in the city to learn from the Strasbergs about the, oh my God, I just like blanked on what it's called.
Studio and the method acting.
Method acting. And I had method in my brain, but I was like, method what? My goodness.
Okay.
What is happening? So she really, really wanted to better herself and become the best. She was very interested in, you know, sort of like always one-upping herself and just being a star, not just for her looks, but for her actual talent. And so she took all those classes, and you can go and see like the difference between her movies. And Bus Stop was the first one she did after starting those classes, and it's a phenomenal movie. It's one of our favorites. And you can just see the huge difference in her actual ability. So that's one of the things I just admire about her, is that she was so interested in learning and becoming an innovator, like Denny said. And then with Ella, the thing I love about her the most is just her ability to just keep going and like to get what she wants. So, you know, she really wanted to not just be like singing on stage or during the JATP tours. She wanted to get involved with like TV shows and radio and like put her hands in all those pots and movies and really put herself out there. And people would say no, and she was not going to take that as an answer. She wanted what she wanted, and she absolutely deserved it. So I love that for her, she was a go-getter and determined. I think that's one of the things that probably helped the two of them connect, is that they both were really persistent and determined in their equal career paths. And you know, it's hard for people to understand that kind of a motivation. So I think that the two of them having that connection and understanding each other really helped with their friendship.
Yeah. Co-writing is a completely different experience from solo writing. What was it like, and the process as well of working together? We'll start with you first, Denny, on that.
Well, we've had this conversation publicly and privately, but there's this thing that Miss Knight does with spreadsheets that are the most encompassing thing I've ever seen in life. So yeah. Um,
They're spreadsheet obsessed, but I'm totally like will admit that.
our world. Okay, but no, the value of that. Let me get into the value of that. One of the things that we agreed upon right away was that this story had a time and place, and so we went and dug in deep to what was it like for women in the 1950s? What were the issues on the table post World War II that created such situations as the blonde bombshell, or the certainly the racial pre-civil rights movement atmosphere in America? What was happening from what wasn't happening on that scene? How the entertainment industry even operated, because you have managers, you have agents, and contracts. Back in the day, women in Hollywood today are still fighting against the inconsistencies and what have you of how contracts, be it music industry or acting or whatever, really limit opportunity in a way, or can. But back then it was very rigid. So you had the big studio, et cetera, the big music companies that didn't give you rights to your music. It goes on and on. So we wanted to look at the environment and the atmosphere, and then from there we looked at themes. And all of those themes, all of those time periods went into Eliza's Google Doc. So then I'm gonna pass it to her.
Take it away, Eliza. Tell us about these Google Docs and spreadsheets.
So we had our spreadsheets, and it actually is a great like organizing tool, because it did help us figure out, you know, when you're writing in two different points of view with two different characters, and you really need them to be able to connect on the page in their respective chapters, and also to know where they are. It helped us to have like a column that said like they're both in LA, or you know, Ella's in England and you know, Marilyn is in London, or they're both in New York City. So we knew where they were at any given time. And if we couldn't find it, we kind of, that's where you get that little bit of fiction in there. We made that part up. But
yeah,
it really helped us figure out where they are in their lives and their careers, actual placement. And then, as Denny mentioned with the themes are so important because you want the chapters to flow. And this is a story about their friendship. And even though you've got two different people, you want everything to connect. So we really wanted to make sure that our themes were on point in each chapter. And then as far as like the actual writing goes, that's like my favorite part. You know, we would each write a chapter and send it to each other and then be able to read and go back and forth like that. And that is fun to watch the story actually come alive. And one of my favorite parts is when we would do stuff together. So, you know, if we had a chapter with both of the ladies in it, we really worked hard to make sure that we both were in that scene together, writing the different points of view so that it came out as very authentic to their voice. Because, you know, different writers have different voice, even if they're trying to emulate the same character. So you wanted like that to actually be very consistent. And that's the fun part. The other fun parts about writing together is getting to share the highs and lows of the actual writing and the characters and the editing. I'll let Denny tell you a story about the editing. Jump off right there.
Well, editing, I think what you're referring to, let me talk about two things. First, Miss Knight is a very fast drafter. Denny is not. So when she starts talking about exchanging chapters, it wasn't exactly that. It was like, here's 1/4 of the book, Denny. Where's your chapter? You know, so stuff like that would come up. But once we got into the swing of our respective pacing, because I'm not a fast drafter, we then could connect. That's when those Google Docs were invaluable, frankly, because we were able to stay with story, even at whatever pace we were writing. And then we exchanged and exchanged and exchanged, read and read. So it really had a real flow that we wanted and we believed happened which was seamless throughout the storytelling. Now, there was one other point where once we finished our first amazing draft,
So beautiful.
so beautiful, it was the perfect draft, frankly. We sent it to our editor, and she was like, "This is fabulous. Okay, now take out 30,000 words." And so there was this
Panic.
panic. Well, what I like to say there is because, Eliza, a very kind-hearted woman, she might have shed a tear.
I
I
probably shut up
just
again.
the string of profanity that came out of my mouth was a whole different story. But once we recovered from the $30,000, it felt like money.
It was just burning it up out the door.
But once we recovered from that, we learned something, and I think it came to fruition in the final product. Those 30,000 words needed to go.
Yeah.
Those 30,000 words were also words that helped us find character. And what remained in the book, and I think Eliza will agree, is much richer, deeper, etc., because of those 30,000 words that had to go.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Mhm. I love how you bring that up, though, Denny, because even though they needed to go and it built your manuscript with so much more depth and richness, there is absolutely 100% that moment or that grief stage. Like, what?
Are you kidding me?
There was definitely some grief. And that's also why it's fun to have a writing partner, because you can get on the phone with them and you guys can just hash that out, bitch it out, whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
What is happening?
What's wrong with these people? It's so much fun. And they know who they are, too.
They do.
Wink, wink.
Yeah.
Eliza, what did you find most surprising with Ella and Marilyn's friendship, in your opinion?
I think the thing I found most surprising, just to start off, was that they were friends, because people don't talk about it. It's, a few notes here and there like, oh, Marilyn helped Ella get on stage because they wouldn't allow Black singers, which was not true. There had been Black singers before her. We found out it was actually because of her size. She wasn't considered sexy, which is so dumb. So I think the friendship itself is what really surprised me the most. But I also, I guess, am surprised on the same level that they managed to keep it so private from everyone else. And I think, that had a lot to do with managers and things like that. But I kind of believe that for the two of them, they just wanted something of their own. Like everyone's following their careers and all of that stuff, but they were able to keep some private moments. And I really respect that.
Yeah. I would say I also was surprised by their shared past, not together, but the similarities, both with the orphanage, loss of relationships with mothers. Their youth was full of challenges and trauma. That they're even up until they both married early and divorced their first husbands. That poor decision making on wanting to create family, almost out of desperation. So that I found interesting and surprising, because it definitely fed into what made them similar and what made it easier for them to connect.
Mm-hmm. Why would you say, Denny, that it's important for women to connect to other women and build those relationships?
Well, it's how you can stay sane, number one. Because if you are a professional, especially in industries that don't have a check mark for excellence, but it's opinion based, or it's entertainment industry, writing books, what are the things that, yeah, if you become a New York Times bestseller or this, that, or the other, number of sales, how that friendship, especially an author, another female author, because we write women lead protagonists. I'll put it that way. So often you'll find your friends are other female authors. But you got to talk industry. You got to talk characters, somebody who will sit back and understand when you hit the wall on some of these crazy pants things that are happening around you, and also just what's happening on the page. How many people can you really talk to about, oh my God, I don't know what to do with this character, da da da. You know, some people are just looking at you like, okay, babe, you know, that don't make no sense. It's real. What are you doing? But so those friendships keep you going. And I'm confident, and that's why even relationships, partners, so often in the entertainment industry are other entertainers, because you got to have. It's almost like a level playing field. You understand what I'm going through, and so we can just connect on so many different levels that are within the framework of that. You know, whatever we do for a living, that we spend so much of our blood, sweat, and tears immersed in.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Eliza?
Yeah, I would totally agree with everything that Denny said. I mean, you need people that you can connect with and share things with. You know, this world is not meant to be a lonely place, I feel like. And I just remember when I was growing up, I was visiting my grandparents and I had just gotten there. And my grandmother was like, okay, see, I'm going out with my friends. You're going to hang out with your grandfather. And I thought, well, that's terrible. So I said to her, I just got here. Don't you want to visit with me? And she said, when you're older, you'll understand that for women, friendships are so important. And no, I'm not staying here. And then she left.
I'm out.
And I just always thought that was so horrible. And then I had kids. And I was like, I'm going out with my friends tonight, or I'm going to get on the phone and chat with my friend for the next hour, and I'm shutting my door and no one's allowed in here, because you need to be able to talk to other people that either understand what you're going through, or, you know, going through something similar, or maybe just like kind of get it and you can just like talk their ear off. So I just think that female friendships, like Denny said, they keep us sane. And they help us sort of like maintain ourselves. And I think they're just really good for your health.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I love that, Eliza, because I remember that as a little girl and a teen thinking the same thing. But like the older I'm getting, the more I value the richness of those female friendships. Like it just makes so much more sense now in a way that I'm like, there's no way I could possibly understand that when I was younger. But now it's like our soul almost needs that richness of being with other women and laughing and having those conversations and connections.
Yeah.
Well, being a woman is hard. Like there's a lot of things that go on in our bodies and in our brains and in our worlds that you can't like talk to anyone about except another woman that knows exactly what you're talking about. So
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
100%.
Well, it's sort of like the opening in our book, not opening of the actual, but the quote that we have at the front of the book. It says, friendships between women, as any woman will tell you, are built of 1,000 small kindnesses, swapped back and forth and over again. And that's a quote from Michelle Obama. And when we stumbled, and it was literally like, oh, we need to put something in front of blah, blah, blah. And we found this, and it was like, okay, perfect. Yeah, that's it. That's the whole thing right there.
I got chills when you read it, and I got chills when I first read it. So that, I mean, it's a very powerful statement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Especially the small kindnesses. That really encompassed the whole thing. And I believe that of, you know, some of the fictional moments in the book, the reason they ring so true is they're so inspired by female friendship that we know, that Eliza and I have experienced.
Yeah.
So, you know, the being, what is the word? when you have a friend and you're out to dinner and you don't drink and they drink, or they smoke and you don't smoke, well, back in the day, we're going back in time here. Nobody smokes now, but just those things that you don't make a big deal out of, because the important thing is we're sitting here and we're chilling. One of the most enjoyable scenes that I liked writing with Eliza was one of the times Marilyn and Ella are in the back of the restaurant and the waitress puts them back there because she knows they need their girl time. Yeah. And they didn't have to make a big deal about it. And they're just sitting up there, chatting away. And I think I read a review about, and the one thing that resonated for the reviewer was the fact that they both like potato salad. And I thought that was just so much fun. So much fun that, you found those moments that people's like, oh, and they both love potato salad. Like, okay. We wrote 120,000 words.
But you got him at potato salad, ladies.
I love potato salad too.
So anyway.
It's just like a good comfort food, like that's there's something about it. It's definitely
it reminds you of like summer too, I feel like, because it's like a barbecue item and like you eat it outside with friends. Like it's a friendship food, I feel like.
Yeah.
Denny, what kind of pie would you buy and share with your good friend?
Okay. Two different good friends. One comes to mind. There's this place in DC that closed during the pandemic, but my friend Pintip Dunn and I would go to this place, and it would be this amazing short, soaked in rum with ice cream on top. It was the most ridiculous. It wasn't even pie. It was pie cake. I don't know. And it was just perfect. And we'd go get that. Another friend, it's all about us going to get oysters. It would not be anything sweet. It would just be whatever oyster place. And there are actually photos documenting a whole bunch of us a few years ago at a writers' convention with oysters that we thought were like this big. The biggest thing I've ever seen was like me, Vanessa, Sonali, Deb, a whole bunch of folks. And we were just sitting there in heaven.
Yum.
It was crazy pants. But yeah, you asked and I go into deep detail on food.
This is my people, because friendship just connects with food. I'm like a foodie and I love eating with, like, there's just a blend with eating with good friends. It's a whole vibe.
Absolutely.
So
I feel
my mouth is watering, Denny. Sounds delicious. What about you, Eliza? What kind of pie would you buy and eat with your friend?
So the pie I normally get with friends is actually key lime pie. I love citrus pie. So I like lemon meringue too, but key lime is my ultimate favorite. And if it's on a menu, I'm absolutely getting it. But because I have guilt issues, I always ask people to split it with me. But I love a good key lime pie, and actually shared a slice the last time at the Biltmore with some friends, and that was just a fun experience.
Oh, the Biltmore in LA.
Yeah. And we had some wine and then some key lime. It was great.
You're giving all the summer vibes, Eliza, with the key lime and the wine. I'm like ready to go out and enjoy the sunshine.
I am too. I'm ready for summer. I'm ready for summer for sure.
Well, it's more summer where I live. I'm coming up north later this week. And I was looking at the weather and I was not pleased.
It's not good. Yeah. I'm back and forth between Maryland and Florida right now. And in Florida, it's summer. And in Maryland, it's 50.
Yeah. Yeah, I noticed that. I was like so not happy.
Yeah.
So not happy.
I'm going to send lots of warm vibes.
Please.
Because I'm in Savannah. I'm in Savannah, Georgia now. And it's lovely. Yeah.
You both have books coming out this summer as well. Eliza, tell us a little bit about your upcoming book.
So my book, The Queen's Faithful Companion, is about Elizabeth II's relationship with her corgi, Susan. As you can see, I have a corgi right here. It's my inspiration. And so everybody kind of knows that the Queen was, loved her corgis. She had a lot of corgis, but Susan was the matriarch of all of those Windsor corgis. And she was given to her as a gift on her 18th birthday by her father. So they had a very special relationship. She took her everywhere, including sneaking her into the carriage when she went on her honeymoon. Philip did not know the dog was coming. And so that was a bit of a fun surprise. But I just really enjoyed writing that book. I got to write from the point of view of the dog as well. So that was a really fun exploration.
And that's coming, when's the release date for that?
June 11th.
Oh, right around the corner.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Denny, tell us about your upcoming book.
Yeah. Well, I happen to have a copy of an ARC right here.
Ooh,
there it is. It's pretty
Beautiful.
big. It's called The Trial of Mrs. Rhinelander. It is a book that I really researched over and over again because there's so much information about the trial. So the challenge for me was finding the story. And that meant finding character. And I found this woman in this story, and it was it's biographical historical fiction, which means it's inspired by actual events that took place in the 1920s, or it began in the 1920s. And it's a love story. It's a trial about fraud. It's a battle between two families. One very, very wealthy and the other not so much. And it has issues of race. This beautiful woman was married a very wealthy man. They had a beautiful love affair. She even calls it a beautiful love affair in a newspaper article. And then he accuses her of not telling him that she was Black. And so, but was she? Or what did she really believe? Was she passing? Or was she someone who believed who she was shouldn't matter because she was in love? And so it's a twisty story, but at the same time, it's definitely based on fact. And it comes out July 23rd.
All right, so we will put the links down in the comments below so that you can pick up both Eliza and Denny's upcoming book. We're going to take it to the inner child question segment. Are you ready?
Sure enough.
First question, Eliza, you get to go first on this one. When you were a kid, what were some of your favorite things to do with your friends?
Definitely ride bikes. I was a huge bike rider, and when rollerblades first came out, I also was a rollerblader. And when I also did roller skating at the rink with my friends and play at the park, things like that. I was really into being outside. And then in the winter, we would do like snow, snow stuff, like build snowmen and go sledding and things like that. But I also remember like playing kick the can. And this is the thing like I wish my kids had done, because nowadays like kids just don't like go outside and play like a neighborhood ball game anymore. But yeah, we would play kick the can until like it was very dark. It was just so much fun.
Okay, 3 things come to mind for me, inner child playing with friends, according to the age. Youngest memory, eating dirt. Dirt pies. I don't know why, but it was big fun.
Oh yeah.
And I'm just afraid to admit the dirt pies.
Grass soup, like you get like all these ingredients to make like a big like outdoor soup.
Right. Okay, so there's that. The second phase was catching bumblebees.
Oh,
not bumblebees, but the lights.
Yeah, the lightning bugs.
Lightning bugs. Catching lightning bugs back, and because I was raised on a farm, and we're talking a sea of lightning bugs.
Wow.
Not just one or two, just like could light up the back porch by putting holes in the little top of the glass. And so that was that. But as I got even older, it was jump rope. And
Oh.
I was amazing at double dutch.
Awesome.
So good. This is my memory of me. You know?
Good. I could do this part, like with the rope.
Oh, with the rope.
Won't put me in the middle.
I was
like, just everywhere.
I even remember some of the rhymes, but
that's so fun.
Double dutch was it.
There is a magic for sure about roller skating and jump roping that when you're in that moment, like you are the best and it feels great and there is nothing better than what you're doing.
I totally agree.
Yeah, so true.
Second question, Denny, this is you first. As a teenager, what was a signature item that you liked to wear?
Okay, two things. Number one, my mother left for work before I went to school. So anything she owned that I could get back into the house before she got back from work, except for the day that student pictures were taken, and I stayed in her cashmere sweater and her little pearl necklace. And then when the pictures came home, of course, in trouble. It's just not thinking ahead. The other one is that my cheerleading uniform. I was a cheerleader, and I stayed in that thing during seasons. Basketball and football were my cheerleading seasons, and we always wore our cheerleading outfit on Fridays because that was game day.
Game day.
All day long. Imagine. All day long. I was that girl. So yeah.
What were your colors for your
Black and gold? Black and gold.
Ooh.
Tigers.
Bringing it in, yes.
That was our animal, tiger. Notice how I'm not mentioning the high school. Keeping all that on the QT. Some place this happened. Nobody send any yearbook photos because it was a mess.
We'll leave it. It's just gold and black.
Yes, that's it.
Secret code. Got it. What about you, Eliza? What was your signature item to wear?
So I had this black leather jacket that I loved, and it was kind of, it's not really crop top, but it was waist and slim and thin material, and I absolutely loved that. And in fact, we were just cleaning out our basement for our move, and I found it and gave it to one of my daughters. So I was like, oh my God, I used to love this jacket. And then something a little funnier. So I was the editor of my high school newspaper, and I wrote for the paper for a couple of years before that. And our teacher was kind of a madman, and he was a little bit insane. Would literally just pop Pepsid and Tums the whole class. He just couldn't handle us, and his stomach was just going nuts. So anyways, I was the student who would make skirts out of the newspapers, and I would staple them on, and I would literally wear a newspaper skirt for the entire session that I was there for class. And then I was also there for the newspaper internship. So he was like, please stop using the newspapers to make clothes. But I loved it.
Just dumping the stuff down his throat.
He really was. He was like, oh, again. I also, speaking of that teacher, I also made him sign me a permanent hall pass. I created it myself and laminated it, and he actually signed it. I was like, it's a press pass. I need to be able to leave the class whenever. And he actually agreed. I don't get it.
Once again, no mention of the school.
Yeah, no, I will never mention.
I got a whole vibe with your beautiful jacket and your newspaper skirt with your handmade press pass. This is done.
This is it. This is
Totally.
it. Sounds like a YA book to me.
Oh,
What is up with this child?
Oh, I appreciate the hard work you did for the press pass too. That's awesome.
I needed it to look
I'm actually serious about this YA novel. Sort of like the next generation Veronica Mars.
Yes.
Next project's coming up.
Yeah.
There you go.
I'm adding it.
Next question, we'll have Eliza go first on this. What is the oddest food combo that you've liked and tried, or you've just tried?
Well, I like a lot of different foods. So I don't know what would be really considered odd.
Yeah.
Because I think they're all like kind of normal-ish. I don't know. That's a really hard question.
What's a favorite combo that you like to have together?
Okay, so yesterday was Mother's Day, and I'll just tell you what I asked my kids to make me, because maybe that's a weird combo. So I love vegetables and dip. So I had vegetables and dip, chicken tenders with dip, and salsa with dip. And
I think we found it.
yeah, I was
like dip.
They were like, and that's what you want. I was like, yeah, that's literally like, I want all of that.
Oh my goodness. That was accidentally discovered.
And
I'm
also,
a dip girl too. So
if they could toss in a little bit of sushi, that would have like completed the meal for me.
with the dip. What dip would go
Soy
with
sauce.
sushi?
Soy sauce.
Soy sauce.
Yeah.
Denny, what about you?
Oh gosh. What came to mind as something that people may not eat, but I have eaten, alligator. I was gonna, yeah, and go to Florida. You live in Florida now.
Yeah, there's one in my backyard.
Yeah. Seriously? That's no. No. I'm sorry. I digress quickly. It's like I live in Georgia. I see a pool of water. I'm like, no.
Don't get in.
Gators, no. But anyway, gators. They serve them. I went to this great place and they had gators. And this other thing that I'd never had before that probably is common is fried pickles, dill pickles.
Oh, I love fried pickles.
I'd never had it, and I was like, "What? That was tasty." But I'm open to any variety of foods because I'm not. Some of my friends, I have another author friend who's simply meat and potatoes. No matter where we go, everybody's looking at the menu. There's something here for her, because we always have to be mindful. She's like, there's nothing for me to eat. It's like, girl, just get a piece of meat and a potato. You'll be fine.
Before we end today, can you share with us, both of you, we'll start with Denny first and then go to Eliza, of what an abundantly creative life means to you?
Means getting to do what I want to do. Because I actually feel like even though I'm have been writing professionally as a novelist for 6 years, I have led a creative life from my first job as a dancer in a modern dance company and traveling around the country doing that, to marketing and PR, where I got to create productions and things like that, to running my own business, to writing books. So creative life is what I am, what I do. So that's been pretty exciting to have that opportunity and to continue it in different fields.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love having the ability to create things, to be an artist, whether, it's dancing or writing. I used to act, so I was, I loved being able to perform, doing that. And just every day waking up and knowing that like I am creating something that I get to share with the world is really exciting. Plus, I've also tried working like normal jobs and I just don't like it. I'm just really good at making up stuff. But I think it's, being able to sort of touch on all of those parts of ourselves that are just like intrinsically artistic, and being able to create something really beautiful and share with people. Because every piece of piece of writing that we do, every book or whatever it is, artwork, it's sharing a little piece of your soul. So I feel like it's sort of like a really intimate job at the same time as it is a public one, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for both joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure talking about Can We Be Friends? Where, Eliza, can we find links to the book and connect with both of you?
I'm pretty much everywhere. My website is elizaknight.com, and I am on Instagram and Facebook as Eliza Knight Fiction. Those are the two mediums I'm the most active on. I do have Twitter and TikTok and Threads and all of that, but mostly Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah.
And where can we connect with you, Denny?
DennySBryce.com, and all of my social media handle are the same, Denny S. Bryce. And I'm on Instagram, Facebook. I still hang out at Twitter X, even if it's just to laugh. For the chuckles. It's crazy out there. And then I hang out at TikTok, but I mostly don't understand why. But no, actually I have that's the only one where I think I'm Denny S. Bryce author. But my website is a good place to start. And I'm even on LinkedIn, which is starting to get a little bit more intriguing.
We'll add the links down below on the comments for easy access to both Eliza and Denny. Thank you so much for those who've joined us live, and will also join on the replay. Remember, as you go about the rest of your week, to find the things that are working for you. You are the creator of your own stories. What step will you take next? Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Eliza and Denny.
Thank you
so much. Bye.
Bye-bye.